our concern today is not only the history and development of the contemporary, past and contemporary predicaments of neoliberalism, but actually the different intellectual and academic positionings on it. Positions that reflect both power relations in the real world and mediate under our understandings of the neoliberal world. And in order to achieve that task, we have divided the symposium in two parts. The first part is dedicated to the question, what happened to social theory in 1989? And for this section, we are very glad to welcome Boris Forman from the Free University of Berlin and Boris Buden from Bauhaus University of Weimar as speakers. The second part is dedicated to the contemporary conjunctions of neoliberalism and its crisis that, according to our tentative conjecture here, might force us to look for alternative theoretical and analytical ideas. And for that part, we are very glad to welcome Margaret Meyer as a speaker who is affiliated both to the Free University and the Technical University. So what were these underlying visions of neoliberal capitalism's credo as put into stone in the famous Washington Consensus? First, there was the idea of individuals as rational minimizers in a world made up of essentially competitive relationships, in a world in which everything was assumed to acquire the entrepreneurial form. Every subjectivity would assume to take up the shape of the enterprise, in which every single action was an investment made by individuals who cared for themselves, who considered options, and who were free to choose. And second, there was the idea that under ideal conditions, in a world not biased by ideological politics, or as economics like to see, all other things being equal, people would actually act in a similar, or if not identical fashion in every corner of the world. That also implied that they would sustain and wish to live and enjoy the same set of institutions, such as the rule of law, democracy, and so on and so forth. This was the image of universal modernity that came to dominate social science thinking after the Second World War. And while at least with the onset of the political revolts of the 60s, it was severely criticized, these visions of monolithic universal modernity had a remarkable comeback in the early 1990s. So in 1995, when I started to study sociology in a German university, I was sitting in reading groups and seminars where we were engaged in understanding transitions to democracy and market economies of East European countries. And it was remarkable how there was one standard set of assumptions about why these societies actually failed. It was they were not modern enough, which was essentially an understanding that all of these societies had to catch up with a particular standard precept that was gathered through an observation of how Western European societies had developed over the last 50 years, and it was a standard answer to the question why they failed. So this is what later became famous as the transition studies, actually, that had been afterwards put to criticism, that some of the other speakers will probably take up in the next hours as a theme. So there was an idea that actually modernization was a uniform process, and it always implied the construction of a market economy. However, it was not always clear how much market would be in that equation and what kinds of practices should all be organized according to market principles. So in the meantime, pretty much all economies across the world have been liberalized, all labor markets have been deregulated, and all state sectors privatized. More significantly, though, are developments whereby social practices in fields traditionally not organized according to competitive or market principles, such as the state bureaucracy, educational leisure, have also been commercialized, commodified, and capitalized. So while all of these processes are understood as the economization or marketization of social life, sociologists and anthropologists found that the situation was more complex. Two observations here, just quickly. On the one hand, anthropologists showed that cultural and social practices of real people on the ground almost never conformed to the standard assumption of rationality and choice according to preference, that people were rather subject to power relations and apparatuses of cultural authority that rendered the notion of choice problematic or even false. On the other hand, they also showed that if certain practices were formally not guided by competition, people were incited to act as if they were in competition. And I would suggest that no example is better is better suited to illustrate the mechanism of how people are incited to understand themselves as if they live in competitive principles as the pervasive practices of ranking and rating that we are probably all are engaged all the time.